Stand by, everyone. We've got some technical difficulties taking place here. That's weird. Let's see here. Tools, options. If you're live at YouTube, hey, welcome to One Take Glosson. Let's see. Oh, no, that's right. That's right. So, what's the problem? This makes no sense. Fine, we'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
In the great hall of the Justice League. Of the Justice League. In the great hall of the Justice League. Of the Justice League.
On this episode of Geek Out Loud, we're talking a lot of things. We're talking Andor. We're talking Thunderbolts. We're not doing spoilers on Thunderbolts, but we're talking Thunderbolts. And then we got a whole bunch of other stuff going on. It's Geek Out Loud. And hello, everyone, and welcome in to Geek Out Loud. My name is Steve Glosson. So glad to be along with you on this, your safe place to geek out on the internet and through the podcasting medium. You know, we here at Geek Out Loud don't try to get too crazy about things. We try to stay level-headed and up to date, and or not up to date, but just kind of like we don't try to freak out about every. Hey, man, we're not trying to freak out about every little thing. We're just trying to have a good time, want to have some fun. And to that end, we are live at Mixler. We are live at YouTube. We are live at Rumble, and encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, share, listen, email, send snacks, and all the other things you do with these platforms. I'll say this particularly about Rumble. I was told, hey, it's so good to have you here on this particular platform because there's not really anything like it that's happening over at Rumble. And that's cool. That's really great. Um, we have 11 followers right now. We've got to get that up to 100. So come on, everybody. Come on, everybody. Come on. You remember that when the Fat Boys hooked up with Chubby Checker and did like the twist? They had done Wipeout uh with the Beach Boys, and then they hooked up with Chubby Checker and did the twist. Chubby Checker and the Fat Boys. Um if you missed it, you missed a great time in the history of the world because it was amazing. You had these three just fat guys rapping and having a great time. I will say Wipeout greater than the twist, but it's some good stuff. But we've got people commenting on Mixer. We've got people commenting on the YouTube stream. We got people all over. And so Maui Mark's here. Ted Milich is here. I don't know who else is here. Let me pull up the Mixler and see who we got in the chat. Not a ton of folks. It is late on a Thursday night. I get it. It's a school night. And oh, I wish you'd have written that over in the YouTube chat. Tintin. He says, seriously, we all remember restarting shows at least 3 times because of technical issues. Many times, poor Steve would have to redo an entire segment or more. Good memories for everyone but Steve. That's that's true. Back in the day, early days of Mixler Zoo Crew, man, that beast of a machine. Listen, it did its job, and it did its job well, and it held on as long as anyone could humanly rightfully ask for it to hold on. I could probably go get that machine right now and plug it up and hook it up, and it may run. I might have to get a little vacuum in there and vacuum out some dust and stuff, but I think we could get it rolling. It was just that kind of a machine, and it's that machine's probably at this point 15 years old, 15 or 16 years old. Um, I would say probably about that old. So, yeah. Uh, but that's the man, that's the old days right there. That's thinking back for those of you who are like, what is he talking about? When do we do this? Well, we have for now many years been streaming live on Mixler whenever we go live with any of the shows that we do or used to do. Excuse me while I wipe my glasses off. I'm just seeing in this light how dirty they are. We've been we've been doing this live, and people have been chatting. It started when we were a morning. I say we, I mean me, but I consider everyone who listens a part of the thing because everyone was a part of things. You know, this was not just a one man show, and so we had the Twitter Zoo Crew because we'd check Twitter through the show. It's a big honking show in the morning, 7 to 9 every morning, Monday through Friday. And so we had the Twitter Zoo Crew where I'd have Twitter up, and that was a very delayed thing. Of course, people were listening on the TuneIn app back then. And then when that ended at the radio station, we brought it to the house, and we tried all kinds of live streaming platforms, and we settled on Mixler, and been with them ever since. They're pretty stable, good times. It used to be that we'd be the number one broadcast going on Mixler at the time, so much so that like I had actual people from Mixler reach out and be like, hey, what are you guys doing? How's that going? And you know, we do it up. But anyhow, Goozles up. Listen, I don't know what it's going to take for this world to get to a place where on YouTube we can play fun music for a few minutes and sing over it and not be like, well, you got a copyright strike because you use this and it's another artist's work and that sort of. It's like we're promoting this music for these artists. If I'm playing it on the show, hopefully you're going and streaming it or downloading it or buying it or something. To put a little money in whoever's pocket the money's going in. Of course, nowadays it's all going to these corporations that own this stuff and that sort of. But this is not the place for that. Goozles up. That goozles the thing in the back of your throat. And we had a voice teacher who listen all the time. She's still out there, Carissa, who told us that when you sing of the high notes, the goozle goes up. And so when we'd go to sing what became the anthem for the Big Honkin' Show, St. Elmo's Fire, we'd hit those high notes and we'd say goozles up. It was kind of like a battle cry for the show. It was a battle cry for the Big Honkin' Show and everything else. And that song became the pump up song. And hey, all I need is a set of wheels. I'm a man in motion. So there you go. Music and YouTube don't mix. That's true. And that's sad. Let's see. I was going to see it was on Mixler. You read my post and it mentioned Zoo Crew on Mixler. Squirrel. I did see who was on Mixler and I didn't see that. I'm also having trouble reading the tiny Mixler chat on the particular screen that I'm at, and I don't want to do the thing. Our good friend Luke from Geek of Steel got on to me for layering readers over glasses, so I can't really see this stuff. I read your comment about restarting, and then you're going to be in Maui, maybe they said. We got Oklahoma's having record-setting rain. I don't see what you're saying, so I reject your comment. Retro Wave Dave, good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Hey, we've had several people subscribe over at YouTube since we started doing this the past couple of weeks. We've added about 16 or 17 subscribers. We got to keep kicking on YouTube, everybody. We got to keep it rolling and get on up there too. Again, it's all the likes and the comments and the subscribes. Apparently, there's some algorithm that I don't understand, where there's a mathematical equation, which I think is what an algorithm is, that makes things happen and you get more eyeballs if you do this. And here's the thing about what we do. We're long form. So you're going to have me sitting here like this, long form, doing this, and that's not a YouTube thing, really. That's not what people really want on YouTube. Now, if I had a panel of people, sure. Um, if I were fired up, angry about something, absolutely. People, if I had some kind of pertinent topic to talk about, yeah, we might catch something. I'll be honest with you. I've tried to make the thumbnails just slightly clickbaity. So the first time we did this live like this, the first time in a while, it was episode 308, and I put on the thumbnail, the best pop culture podcast. And and then last week, because we were talking Fantastic Four and we mentioned Shalabal, oh my Lanta, parody idea. And there's a lady Silvers, and her name is Shalabal. Remember Shambhala from Three Dog? Is that Three Dog Night that does that? And you light down in the halls of Shambhala. I bet we could. Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one. Don't let me forget that. AI, set a reminder to make a parody song of Shambhala by Think Three Dog Night. There, that'll happen. Someone asked me if AI is the new Edna. Probably. Edna's been replaced by AI. So, yeah, well, a lot of people trying to figure out. No one understands the algorithm. Absolutely. I don't think even YouTube really understands the algorithm, but that's none of my business. So what's coming up on the show? I tell you what we're going to do on this episode is we're going to do a little bit of Andor talk. Strap in, people. I have thoughts, like 2 thoughts maybe on this whole thing, and it's probably going to come down to just being ticked at the fandom more than anything else. But we'll talk about all that. Thunderbolts, asterisks. No spoilery talk. If there's any spoilers, they're going to be very light spoilers, but I don't intend to spoil it at all for anyone because I just saw it today, and I am anxious to talk about it in light of the current direction of the MCU and really the current direction of superhero movies in general. But I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm just going to kind of give my reaction to it and let you know kind of my thoughts. But then I want to talk about the Thunderbolts, not the movie, the comic book, and the idea of the comic book. I believe Kurt Busiek wrote it originally and kind of came up with the concept and what that concept was. And so we're going to dip into some comic book talk. And then I'm excited for some Animapocalypse news. Now, you may say, what is the Animapocalypse? Well, the Animapocalypse, we'll explain it when we get there. But because of YouTube, we had to get a new Animapocalypse song. So the question is, do I go ahead and unveil this now? I've got a new Animapocalypse song. I got an Animapocalypse song that's going to be playing for you. And I just don't know if what is Star Wars. Oh, by the way, also I'm going to open if time permitting, I'm going to open a Star War. I will be opening this Star War. It is the Empire Strikes Back vintage carded Bespin security guard, and this is Isdam Edian. Isdam Edion? Isdam Edian? Isdam. It's not Hector Spinoza like last week, but anyhow, it's a Bespin security guard. We'll be opening him if time permits. just to make Menton card collectors go nuts. And that may be a mistake. My buddy Lucas may let me know what's going on. Oh, I love this. By the way, my friend Lucas, Lethargic Chewy, has just texted in, what is Star Wars? That's the question I find myself asking nowadays, especially after watching the recent Andor. Well, buddy, you're in luck. I'm actually about to talk about that. Now, listen, you're not going to get another podcast where the host just sits and texts friends who text in. That is Geek Out Loud. And I'll tell you what, that's the thing. I said it earlier. We're live at Rumble, and that's something that Rumble doesn't really have a lot of is content like this. And by content like this, I mean there's nothing that's so aggressively mediocre on Rumble. We are the pinnacle of mediocrity here at Geek Out Loud, and proud to be so. I believe it's been called comforting mediocrity. That is a good question, and we'll talk about it. I think that's a great springboard to get into some discussion about these kinds of things. But before we do, I want to come back to this. Look, because I don't know, once I get going on the Thunderbolts stuff, I don't know if we'll get to the Animapocalypse. And what I've got in Animapocalypse, I'm more excited to share with everybody what has come about and get everyone's kind of thought on it. So let's do this. Let's mix up the order of things. And let's do this. Now, what is the Animapocalypse? Throughout the course of doing these shows, particularly the show I did on the radio called The Big Honkin' Show, we discovered a lot of stories that revolved around animals invading spaces where people live, animals having run-ins with human beings, causing trouble for human beings, attacking human beings, and it seemed like it was more and more and more and more. And I kind of came to this conclusion, and I believe it was in the morning show portion of doing the Big Honkin' Show, that the animals are trying to take over, that they decided they're having enough, and they're rising up, and they want to overthrow humanity, and they want to do this in an event we call the Animapocalypse. So that being said, let me forget what Star Wars was a Besman. Steve Kenobi was a Besman. That's how good night. I'm sorry. That's how Lando says it. Besman. That's how Lando says it. Besman. Cloud City, Bespin. Let me okay, come back here. I thought I had uploaded some things. Goodness gracious. Where did they go? Oh, here they are. Okay. So it's an event we call the Animapocalypse.
Everybody thinks they're cute. Everybody thinks they're nice. But behind their sleek facade, their blood's as cold as ice. They want to overthrow humanity with birds, moose, bears, and manatees. They want the world to be crushed in their grips. They want to start the Animapocalypse.
That's right. It's the Animapocalypse, ladies and gentlemen. They are wanting to start the Animapocalypse. Words and music, not by Steve Wilson. Listen, that's an AI song, and so that's what that was. So, we can try to play it again, I guess. But anyhow, Animapocalypse news, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what we got: the secret lives of city bears adapting to urban jungles. Imagine walking, and this comes from weirdanimalnews.com. Imagine walking down a bustling city street, skyscrapers towering above, when suddenly you spot a furry figure rummaging through the nearby dumpster. No, it's not a stray dog or a giant raccoon. It's a bear. And as surprising as it may sound, this scenario is becoming increasingly common in urban areas around the world. Check out the fascinating and somewhat secret lives of city bears. Listen, this is not something funny or cute. They're coming into the city. Well, we've expanded so much, we've gotten into their territory. All territory is human territory. Done. And these bears, they're not going to be nice. They're not coming to your city for you to take a selfie with. They're not coming to your city just to eat your trash. They will destroy you because they're bears. And they are part of the whole plan to overthrow all of humanity. That's what they're doing. That's their whole game. Can't trust them. You can't trust these things. The urban bear dilemma, conservation and management challenges, learning to live together, coexistence strategies. And under learning to live together, there's a YouTube video of a bear walking into a convenience store. You can't live with them if they're just going to come in and take their field. Shoot them. Just be done with it. Now, this was written by Mark Putzer. This is not the thing is, it's like, this is part of the issue that we have with this whole animal apocalypse thing. We have people who are like, well, we've got to learn to adapt with them. We must adapt with the city bears so that we're not just like a bunch of country bears just trying to take people out. Bears are dangerous. Bears are very dangerous. And look, right now, you may be able to hear it in the background, this crazy squeaky toy going off. That's because we have a dog in our house now. And he's part of it. You want to think they love you? He's been nothing but a holy terror. That's absolutely what he's been. He's just been ever since we got him, he's been a holy terror. You know why? It's his way of overthrowing humanity. If I can make them tired enough, if they don't get enough sleep, if I can mess up their home, if I can chew up enough furniture, then maybe I can be elevated to the next level in the animal apocalypse. Maybe I can go join the geese down the road. You can't trust these animals. No matter how cute they are, doesn't matter how funny the funny things they do, you can't trust an animal. Oh, Angie Grant, your dog is so cute. He's not a holy terror. Come live with him for 5 months. See how you do. We're done. I'm just telling you. I fought it as much as I could, bringing the enemy into this house. It is psychological warfare. They're crafty critters, every single one of them. And so, but here's the thing. People like this Mark Putzer, who wrote this article last year, he's part of the problem. He's part of the problem. Animal Apocalypse News. It's a city bear. City bears. Hey, we think city bears are so much fun. They're so cool. Let's all just have a cute city bear. Not on my watch, ladies and gentlemen. We got to get rid of the city bears because people live in cities. And if we're just going to let the bears just overrun the cities, what point is civilization at that point? Stand firm, my friends. It's the animal apocalypse. ready, here comes a public service announcement. I don't know much about love and relationships. I cannot guide you through the torrid white water of dating and engagement and marriage. But I can tell you this. If you begin dating someone and you don't get married until 9 years later, you are settling for one another. You have decided that this is the best you can do, so you might as well just go ahead and bite the bullet and get married.
Frustrated by looking for a new pet for the family? That's why you should get your kids the all-new Silky Buddy. A pet, a chicken, and your buddy too.
They are furry chickens.
Wait, is this magic? A chicken with fur? Are you sure?
Fuzzy Ewok chicken.
Well, are they safe for kids?
They're renowned for their calm, friendly temperament. They do well in confinement and interact very well with children.
Sounds like it'll be perfect for the park, a day at the beach, or even show and tell at school.
You need one.
Order your Silky Buddy today for $29.95 plus $7.95 shipping and handling, 30-day money-back guarantee. Coming soon from the makers of Silky Buddy.
Silky Dome sparkling jewelry.
Well, we're back here live. Back here live, if I can get everything. I'm learning how to produce and do away with the media assets and everything as I pull them up. It's a good time. It's a good time here at YouTube. So that was a little taste of Animapocalypse. That was the Animapocalypse song. Lyrics by Steve, music and vocals by AI. So there you go. Well, we got to do it. We got to talk it. Andor season 2 is rolling. Now, if you want the best Andor discussion as far as just breaking down the episodes and analyzing things and speculating on things, there are two places to go. One, Rebel Force Radio. They are what we call the walking dog of Star Wars podcasting. And then for a more laid back but fun approach, check out Rule the Galaxy with our buddy Joey Marinara and his whole cast of characters over there. Alfie, D-Doc, Brad, all of those guys over there having a great time. And I think I might have stepped on their toes a little bit tonight as we went live, not long after they went live. But so check those. If you want really detailed discussion about these things, they're the places to go. They're going to give you balanced opinions. They're going to give you well thought out analyzation of it. I'm going to give you, I watched the show and here's what I think. That's what you're going to get here in just a moment. But I do want to say this. And I've really kind of debated on where I stand with this thing, because the truth is, and if you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you know that for the past several years, I have pulled out of Star Wars fandom just a smidge because of the direction Star Wars has kind of gone in. There's been nothing that's really grabbed me. There have been a few things here and there that I really enjoyed. We had a whole discussion on the audio portion of this podcast in episode 308 with Shaz Bazaar and myself riding down the road talking about Skeleton Crew. I thought Skeleton Crew was fun. It was interesting. It was a throwback to the 80s in all the right ways. It was really Super 8 for Star Wars. And I that was fun. That was, now it's not my favorite Star Wars thing to ever come out of anything. 3 seasons of The Mandalorian have been good to varying degrees, but they've all been, to me, very much Star Wars, in the vein of Star Wars. And not just because you had Luke Skywalker show up, and not because you've got Baby Yoda running around using the Force. Before we ever got to the end of the episode, the first episode, the premiere, the pilot episode of The Mandalorian, from the moment he walked into that bar on that frozen wasteland of a planet, until he opens up the crib or the bassinet or whatever it's called, and there's Baby Yoda, the whole thing felt like Star Wars. maybe the music left a little bit to be desired. I mean, I like the doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I mean, I'm okay with all that, but there's just something about it that didn't quite feel Star Wars. But after years of Kevin Kiner doing the Clone Wars and Rebels, and putting a certain twist on different things here and there, like you can kind of take different music in different parts of Star Wars. So, but that felt like it. Book of Boba Fett. Back and forth on that, when you get to the end and you got Boba Fett riding a Rancor down the streets of Tatooine, I'm there, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Obi-Wan show, the Kenobi series. Yeah, I mean, like I never came away from thinking this doesn't feel like Star Wars, and I was really shocked at people who complained about a little girl running away from grown men in the woods, saying, "Well, they would have caught her immediately." Have you never watched a movie or a TV show? I mean, did you never see Home Alone, for crying out loud? There is something called the suspension of disbelief that you have to do in these things. By and large, I can't really anything that I've seen, and have watched. The only thing that really comes to mind outside of like the Star Wars anime little things that they did, the only thing that comes to mind that doesn't really feel like Star Wars to me has been Andor. Um, both seasons so far. There are characters that I recognize. There are Star Wars characters. There's Star Wars ships. There are Star Wars planets. There are Star Wars aliens. Not a lot of them, but they're there. There, but there's just something about this show that feels like, hey, we've got this treatment for a science fiction thing. If we tweak it a little bit, it can be Star Wars. Okay, let's do that. These last episodes were not good to me. I did not enjoy them. If you did, great. I went on to a particular Facebook group, and someone had said that this is greatness. And I said, could you please explain to me why? And I had someone kind of come at me like, well, what did you mean? Why don't you tell us what you don't like? And I'm like, basically the whole thing. It's just not good to me. It's everything that was wrong with the first season has been wrong really with this season. It's just boring, or the storytelling's inconsistent and convoluted. These characters, like I can tell you Cassian, I can tell you Mon Mothma. I couldn't tell you her husband's name to save my life. I know Luthen because he's Stellan Skarsgård. I think I've made this point even on this show. Outside of that, I mean, I guess the lady, the Imperial lady who always looks like she smells something incredibly bad, Dedra. I guess her boyfriend or whatever he is to her, his name is Serial. And outside Bix, is that Bricks? And where's that little droid? Listen, this whole episode they're on Coruscant. Where's the little droid that's always worried about Cassian so much? They just left him on that wheat planet? Is that what they did? For a whole year? Like he's been gone a whole year? That poor little droid's going to stress out. Or is he just dead and gone now? Was he even in the show? And look, Gorman. Here we are. The Gus Gorman. That from Superman 3. That's what I kept thinking. Every time they said the planet Gorman, I'm like, oh, Gus Gorman. Hey, we're in a lot of trouble, aren't we? Molded plastic chairs, molded to your big behinds. Superman 3, better than these episodes of Andor. And that's saying something. Then you've got this whole side quest with Saul Guerrera. And there's this whole thing that just ends up being an excuse for him to get high and get that kid high. Huff gas with me. This is what it's all about. Forget the rebellion. huff the gas. That's literally that's what that whole thing was. I killed an Imperial spy and I taught a little boy to huff gas. What? That plot line went nowhere. And here's the thing: people say, "Well, maybe next episode it will." The next episode's a whole year later. So what are you going to see? This kid that's just doped up, cracked out of his mind with Saul Guerrero? Is that what we're going to see? Or did the kid die because it burned him from the inside out, like Saul was talking about? Does the kid melt and become Borg Gullet? What? Next week, it's going to be the next year. And you can't tell a story and say, well, here's where this kid ended up after that first time he huffed gas. It's not a good, if you, it's just not it's a weird hanging Chad, you know? So Saul's got his team, with old Two Tubes and Big Furry Man and everyone else. And it's cool to see those characters, from Rogue One, but at the same time, it's like, so are we going to see him again? Are we going to actually see him do something other than go steal some kind of gas from somebody? Is that what and that's fine if they're getting fuel, but it's like, for what now? Because we've not seen them do anything to accomplish any type of rebel strike or anything. And I guess that planet that they were on is supposed to be exciting for us all because, this is where they're at in The Force Awakens, maybe. I guess that's how excited we were supposed to get when he's flying off that TIE fighter last week and he's on Yavin. Whoop-de-doo. I don't mean to get all crazy about it, but I'm telling you this: when you criticize this show, the people who love this show generally come back on you and tell you, well, you just don't get it. You don't understand. You want Star Wars to be blah, blah, blah. And then people are saying this is too intense, this sort of thing. Look, here's the thing. I'm going to make a couple of points here and I'm going to move on. Again, if you like this show, I've got nothing against you and I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm not. And I think that part of my issue with this show has been the way fandom has reacted to it. Because if you like it, there are people who think, well, you're stupid for liking it. And if you don't like it, there are people who say, well, you're stupid for not liking it. And that's kind of been the state of fandom since The Last Jedi. There's suddenly there's this thing that has happened with people that if it's Star Wars, I must like it. Like it's some kind of competition to who can like the most Star Wars. Let me tell you some other things about Star Wars that I haven't liked in the past. Once the prequels came out, and we got through the New Jedi Order, I didn't read anything after the New Jedi Order because it kind of all was just repeating, and the authors started to do the same thing with the Star Wars story that now the writers are doing, where they're trying to just break everything down and tear everything down that we know, and go on kind of a weird path, about the Force and about good and evil and all this other stuff. And so it just didn't appeal to me. Plus, we had the Clone Wars and we had the prequels that were coming out and everything. And so I just kind of dropped off of the reading. When the whole thing reset and they're like, everything's canon now, I tried a few things and wasn't good. The Aftermath trilogy, not very good at all. Sorry, just wasn't good. There was some deal where Luke listened to a song by the Tootle Fruits. That was not a great story. I thought it was going to be a great Luke-centric story. The comics weren't wonderful. It is thanks Mo 211. I appreciate that. Wendy Cooper. I did think it was entertaining that dudes use rock, paper, scissors to decide who's the boss. Yeah, that's quite the showdown. Rock, paper, scissors to the death. It's a thing where people are at each other's throats, like they have some loyalty to this brand, like they actually created it or did something. And I've got no time outside of the time I spend watching and consuming this stuff invested into this stuff. I didn't put any creative energy into it, but at the same time, and this is where I struggle, because it's like, we always say this is your safe place to geek out, and I invite anybody to come and talk to me and tell me how this fits into Star Wars storytelling. and put a pin in that real quick, because I want to come back to that. I invite anyone to come on, and we'll have a good conversation. It'll be fun, and we'll joke, and we'll laugh, and we'll get our points across, and we'll move on. Like, I'm not mad that people like it. What I don't like is that people don't like that I don't like it, and that they're mad at me for not liking it, or that they get snippy with people like me who don't like it. And everyone's just trying to own each other with their points. And so that brings me back to this. So when people say this doesn't feel like Star Wars and it's too dark, it's too gritty, there's too much, like the whole thing at the end of the last episodes last week, that was intense for Star Wars. And people were like, well, what about you? There's been genocide and dismemberment in Star Wars since it began. Right. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the genocide that you're speaking of. We'll go to the planet Alderaan. Alderaan is peaceful. We have no weapons, and you prefer another target, a military target, then name the system. They blow up Alderaan right in front of Princess Leia. And the thing about that is the only person from Alderaan that we know is Princess Leia. And we see a planet blow up, but there's no emotional connection in that. And listen, maybe we're wrong for not having a heart for a fictional planet that we've never spent any time on or with. But the idea of that whole scene is, look at the power the Empire has, and look at the fear that they can instill in the entire galaxy just with this one space station. And yes, they're evil, but even with like the what's going on with Princess Leia, they show the torture droid come in with the syringe and everything, and it's not going to be good, and they close the doors. I mentioned this last week. The radio drama goes a long way to let you know just how painful and harmful that was for Leia to go through. And yeah, but they didn't show it. You know what I mean? Like, and this show seems to take some pride in torturing its characters, and pride or joy won in doing that. And so the genocide there, you see that they're ready to blow up Andor, at the end of Return of the Jedi. They're getting ready to it's a deleted scene, but they were actually going to kind of almost mirror what had happened in the original Star Wars. As they were blowing the reactor inside, they were getting ready to fire on Andor to just go ahead and end this thing once and for all. So the idea of genocide is there and blowing it, but again, it's not in your face, it's impersonal. And does that say something about our society? Does that say something about storytelling? I think it says more about the way you tell the story, that things are going to be a little more palatable than what they are. We don't need that extra stuff to show us how evil the Empire is. We know the Empire is evil because its leader is an evil emperor, so there's that kind of aspect of it. But then, the other things that go on, war is dark, but here's the thing. You've got to have some type of conflict to have your hero rise, and that's in Star Wars, is that hero's journey, that the hero with 1,000 faces, the Joseph Campbell stuff. It is that motif and that archetype of the hero rising and the different people that are around him and that sort of thing. And so where's the conflict going to come from? You've got to have conflict. And it is a period of civil war. And it's not just that it's war. It is that there are distinctly good people trying to overthrow those who are distinctly evil. And now what we're being shown is, well, there are shades of gray throughout. You have good people who are having to do bad things. And I know that's real world war, but this is mythology. We talked about this last week. This is mythology. In fact, I'll come back up here to a comment by Tintin where he says, it just hit me. Current Star Wars is like old Dragonlance, a mythos that has hundreds of writers and cohesion is just one step above pure luck. So yeah, it's right now what's going on is they're taking what should be mythological and they're turning it into, well, they're trying to do like Game of Thrones. They're trying to do like Breaking Bad. They're trying to do like The Sopranos, The Wire, all these shows where there's no real hero. and there's very little redeeming about anybody. Um, and there's no one who's rising to the top. There's no cream that's rising to the top as someone who is solely good. When you go back and you watch like Revenge of the Sith, and this is probably something else that's different. And wow, okay, so my wife and I went to see Revenge of the Sith uh, the day that afternoon before the night that Andor the second through the second three episodes premiered, and the juxtaposition of Revenge of the Sith to what Andor is just absolutely mind-boggling, because Revenge of the Sith is, to this point, the darkest of um the darkest of the Star Wars films. And but it's also got this sense of adventure, and you know who is good and you know who is bad. And throughout the prequels, we saw, and this is where people, I think, and I'm going to say it, they misinterpret what happened with the Jedi. The Jedi were not corrupt. The Jedi were flawed. Flawed does not mean corrupt. Flawed means flawed. Flawed means that there's no intention for there to be evil in what's going on. It just means that they're flawed. I mean, and that's just, everybody's flawed. And so the prequels kind of rattle our thoughts about what the Jedi are, because we see them a little arrogant. We see them kind of like sitting literally in their ivory tower, making these decisions for everyone else. He will not be trained, that sort of thing. Too old to begin the training he is. I sense much fear in you. And then, when they finally do train Anakin, and there's of course grave danger in his training and all this stuff. It's we see that the Jedi have become flawed, but they're not corrupt. And what new writers want to do is they want to corrupt everything that's good in Star Wars. Because no one wants to paint with just, a straight black and white anymore. They want everything to be shades of gray, but nothing trending really toward the light. And I think that's just a mistake. I think that you have to have characters who rise above the darkness, because that's the point of any heroic act. That's the point of heroism, is that no matter how dark the times, the hero rises above the darkness. And whether it was Game of Thrones or whether it's Breaking Bad, we don't have heroes in those that really rise above the darkness. They become part of the darkness. Retrowave Dave says, I think a lot of fans don't realize how desensitized they've become to the content they watched. I don't need Game of Thrones in my Star Wars. I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's what Andor has kind of become. But then again, how much, I don't know how much sense Game of Thrones ended up making as time went on. All these characters had distinct arcs and everything. I never finished it. It was just too depressing for me. And this is kind of becoming that, what was accomplished on Gorman? Nothing but poking the bear of the Empire. What was accomplished by Saw Gerrera? Nothing but getting a kid high on some kind of weird rhodium gas or whatever it's called. What was accomplished with Andor and Bix? Well, she's a druggie. I assume that was spice she was doing. It may not be. It may be some other thing, but I just assumed it was spice. But what that shows you what I know about Star Wars drug culture. Not a whole lot. But at some point there has to be a light. At some point, Andor, what's his reason for fighting? I'll say this. I'm about to get really controversial here. The Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot. It was it was almost a follow-up to Braveheart. And I remember going in that thinking, wow, this is going to be the American version of Braveheart. And it kind of was, in as much as here's this dude that didn't want to get involved in the fight until his family got hurt. And then he's ready to fight, and he's going nuts on him, ready to fight. He wasn't fighting for freedom. He was fighting for vengeance. Unfortunately, I mean, that's how I remember it. I could be wrong about that, but that's how I remember it. And when she was doing drops from the Batman's Gotham. Yeah, exactly. I it may be that got any death stick? You want any death sticks? You don't want to sell me death sticks. I don't want to sell you death sticks. You want to go home and rethink your life. I want to go home and rethink my life. Derailed as I was. Oh, AI, I need a picture of a derailed train. Gee whiz. You know what I'm going to do? For every derailment, I need a picture of a derailed train. So train coming down. I don't know how that song goes. Generate AI. Generate a picture of a derailed choo-choo train. We'll see what happens here. We need to make it a cartoon, an illustration. Train coming on down the line. That's so wrong. I don't know that that's right. Ooh, that's good. Make it a cartoon. I said choo-choo train, so it wouldn't be like too destructive and evil and everything. Oh, what a cartoon. Okay. Yeah, we'll do this one. We'll just take this one real quick. It's not a great one, but we'll take it. Anyway, I got derailed. I derailed myself. That happens sometimes. So what was my point? My point is there's no real good guy to root for. Like, I don't know these people, and I don't know what their whole deal is. I don't know why I'm supposed to care about them. Am I supposed to care about them because he's Cassian Andor from Rogue One? Because I'm telling you what, he hasn't given me any reason to care about him. And look, I get that we were introduced to him by shooting someone that trusted him, right in the gut in Rogue One. And he said, I've done so many things for this rebellion. Great, man. I'm sorry that your life has sucked, but be a hero, and maybe this whole thing is just to lead to the moment in Rogue One where he accepts his fate, and he and Jen hug on the beach, and as the planet is destroyed around them by the Death Star. I don't know, but I do know. Here's what I do know. I do know that it's okay to say this doesn't feel like Star Wars. Star Wars is an adventure. Star Wars is the rise of a hero, the fall of a hero, and the redemption of that fallen hero. Star Wars is a space opera, like a soap opera in space. There's romance and there is overtly cheesy dialogue. There's silliness. There is wonder and awe. And in this show, we've got a man's mom calling him and nagging him. We've got an art salesman, who's a spy or a rebel, a secret rebel, and his helper getting a microphone out of a thing. And I read someone say, this is so much more than all that. It really isn't. It really isn't. It's just these people trying to not get caught by the Empire. And I get it. It's supposed to be a lot of tension for us, but guess what? I don't see Luthen in any of the original trilogy stuff. I don't see him, so he's going to get got. Game of Thrones, the hero's going to die. The good guys are going to die. That kind of thing. Here's the derailed train. And here's what I feel like right now. Just an old man shouting at the clouds, shaking his fist at the sky. Just absolutely unhappy. Dude, he's been in it since he was 6. Give him a break. I'll give him okay. Well, give me a break. Why is he in it? Is he in it because the woman that in the first season that did the whole speech, after her death, is he in it because she raised him in it? I mean, is that what is the motivation for these characters? There's no talk of freedom. There's no talk of overthrowing oppression. There's just talk of like these things that have to be done. Like, what's Luthen's motive for overthrowing the Empire? He doesn't come across as a good guy. Let's hear them talk about the ideals of freedom. Let's hear Mon Mothma talk about that instead of just getting stressed out at her daughter's wedding and dancing around. And then everything's fine this time around. She's cool, you know. And did the driver kill that guy in the first episodes last week? No one ever answered that question for me. Should Star Wars grow up with us? And this goes. I'll take you back to episode 10, I believe is what it was, of Geek Out Loud. I went through several episodes of Geek Out Loud not talking about Star Wars because I knew that once I opened the Star Wars lid, it was just going to be off forever. And I said back then, Star Wars is the foundation of my geekdom. Star Wars is the thing that I have been into since I was a kid, above everything else. I can sit and talk to you about G.I. Joe. I can sit and talk about Transformers. I can talk about Masters of the Universe. I can talk about Voltron. I can talk about Power Rangers. I can talk about a little bit about Ninja Turtles. I can talk all of the pop culture stuff you want to talk to. You want to talk superheroes? We'll sit around and talk superheroes. But what I said way back on, I believe it was episode 10, when I finally started talking Star Wars, was I grew up with Star Wars, but Star Wars did not grow up with me. And at the time, I was having a discussion about the prequels and what would be the Clone Wars. And I had to realize, as a fan of Star Wars who had read all of the books and novels, all the novels that came out, a lot of the comics that had been out, I had to readjust my thinking and understand that there is a way that Star Wars stories are to be told to feel like Star Wars, and that's a storytelling really from a different time, even a cinematic kind of idea of storytelling from a different time. These movies were throwbacks to the old serials, that George Lucas used to watch as a kid. And then Anthony Rotella, been raging over this show all day, finally calmed down and Steve goes live. Well, I don't mean to rage, or I don't want anyone to rage, but I just think that there can be an intelligent discussion about why this isn't Star Wars and why it doesn't feel like Star Wars. I think that there's an intelligent discussion to be had about why people think there should be this kind of stuff in their Star Wars. And I think that we can go our separate ways and be cool with it. I'll tell you what, Hasbro's not going to make money off of Andor. Are you going to get the Assault on Bricks playset, where you can put an Imperial officer down on a peg and launch him across the room, or what? I don't mean to be funny about that kind of stuff. Are you going to get the Gorman, the Gorman playset, the Streets of Gorman playset, complete with protesters? There's nothing here. There's no merchandising that's really. You might have a T-shirt or two sold off of this, but there's no real way to truly merchandise this show. So Disney's depending on what's going on. And I don't understand who this show is for, what the show is all about. The drug chick. Yeah. Are we going to get a Black Series bricks complete with drugs? Is that what we're going to get? The Saw Gerrera Iridium playset, that blows real steam, like those old electric locomotives. You put a drop of machine oil in, and it would heat it up and have smoke come out the top. Is that what we're doing now? Complete with freshly, first time high on Iridium expert, what gas stealing expert, whatever he was. It's just, wow, this is a great statement. I don't think Andor is grown up Star Wars. It's just grim, dark Star Wars. That's a great point, Retro Wave Dave. That's a great point. So look, I've spent way too much more time on this. I don't think we need this kind of storytelling in Star Wars. That's my opinion. If you agree, great. If you disagree, comment below. Let's talk about it in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Let's really see what we can see about all of these things that we're discussing, because that's what a safe place to geek out is. It's a place where no one gets mad because we don't share the same opinion, but instead we just have a discussion about it and have fun having a discussion about it. I still say Superman 3 better than these episodes. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So when we come back, we're going to have a little bit of Thunderbolts talk. No spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers. But I would like to give you my knee-jerk reaction, and then I'd like to talk about the origin of Thunderbolts in the comics. So we'll be right back. Stick around. It is Geek Out Loud. $29 ring at Walmart. I'm a single man, ladies. And I don't know a lot about love, don't know a lot about relationships. But I do know this. Just work a little hard, save up, guys, and come on, at least get into the triple digits on what you're spending on a ring. At least get to that $100 mark before you buy a ring for your bride to be. Wow. We're back here. Geek Out Loud rolls on. I was fortunate enough. I was going to go with Lethargic Chewy to see this movie, but he had to bail for a really good reason. And so my wife and I went ahead and went to see Thunderbolts. And I'm not going to do spoilers, so no one has to tune away or click away right now. We will have a spoilery conversation about it down the road. But I just want to kind of give my non-spoilery reaction to this. It's good fun, but it has a little heart, but it leans into it finds its heart by leaning into dysfunction and some mental health issue kind of things, and so it's a little bit of an exploration of those kinds of things. But it still has its fun to it, and it doesn't feel like there's a story being sacrificed for an agenda too much. There's a little too much emphasis on one of the characters rather than a balanced look at all of them. I think that was one of the genius things about the first Avengers. Not Captain America, the first Avenger, but the first Avengers movie was my fear going in based on, it wasn't a fear, but my thought process going in, I guess, based on some of the trailers we'd seen and all, was that it was going to be very probably either Iron Man centric or Captain America centric. And so what we got was a very balanced look. All the characters got their moment to shine. All the different Avengers got their chance to really show out in the spotlight and that sort of thing. But here, there is one of the Thunderbolts asterisks is a little bit more front and center, I think, than the way it was written for like the Avengers, and so I think that kind of weakens it a little bit. There's also, the price of admission for this movie is that there's not a lot of setup for who these characters are. So you should have seen the Ant-Man and Wasp. You should have seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You should have watched the Black Widow, and you should have watched probably the Hawkeye series. And then you'll know these things. So, but it's good. I mean, here's the thing. It is the closest to feeling like a classic MCU movie since really Guardians 3. I'll say that, like, well, let's review, shall we? You had, after Endgame, you had Spider-Man Far From Home, which was a great kind of follow-up to Endgame. I really enjoyed that. I enjoy Mysterio as a villain in the comics, and I enjoyed that story with him in the movie there. But I also I think that was almost kind of it, once you got past Endgame. And I know there was more to what went on than Spider-Man Far From Home after that. And I'm trying to think of the other. So then you had your television shows. And I think that all of the television shows had their strengths and their weaknesses about them. WandaVision was a really neat concept that I think in the finale kind of fizzled out. Captain America or Falcon and Winter Soldier was a started out really strong, and I think got bogged down in not really knowing what kind of story they wanted to tell, and again, a little too bogged down in the ambiguity of character motivations and that sort of thing. Um, and what else? Hawkeye. I liked Hawkeye. It was, to me, it was one of the more straightforward shows that was there. But it's also like I don't remember a ton of what happened. I just remember I liked it. Um, She-Hulk. Wow. Man, I wanted to like She-Hulk so much more than I did, and I wanted to be happy with the results we got from She-Hulk. And I think that uh, Tatiana Maslany, is that how you say her name? Was a great Jennifer Walters, and I think she's got a great personality to play She-Hulk. Um, but man, I think the execution was just enough off that it was a problem for me. Movie wise, we had Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which had the punch of seeing Professor X and Jim Halpert as Reed Richards. I know it's John Krasinski. Um, and a little bit of jumping through some universes and stuff. And Sam Raimi was the director of that, and man, it had Raimi's touch to it. A lot of snap zooms here and there, and a lot of the horror aspect that Sam Raimi knows how to do. He did really well with that. So, and honestly, not a bad movie. It was kind of a fun movie, and um, but it started a little bit of a trend with some of these things. Um, that I can't really talk about, or else it'd be a spoiler. So I'll remind me to come back to this. Uh, what else was there? Oh, you had Spider-Man Far From or No Way Home, which I think everybody loved, and then when you when you get to kind of see it again and again and again, you realize, man, there was a lot relying on just the nostalgia factor. It's good, it's fun, and it's a great comic book movie. Um, but there's just something about it that didn't feel like classic MCU. And I think, when I say classic MCU, I'm talking about Iron Man, Thor, Cap, the first Avenger, the first Ant-Man, the Avengers movie, um, even Iron Man 3 to an extent, and Winter Soldier, these Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was outstanding. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was a great kind of final chapter. But it pulled on your heartstrings and everything, though, and there was fear. Ant-Man Quantumania, man, a lot of potential to just be one of the coolest things that they did with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, going down to Subatomica, um, MODOK, a lot of potential there, but just not. Again, I think maybe it's because of COVID or whatever, just it seemed to fall just short of the potential that had. Though it's still, I enjoyed it as a comic book movie. Loki seasons 1 and 2, I forgot to mention, those were good. Season 2 especially, I really enjoyed. But then you come to this now. You come to this whole thing with Kang and the whole deal with Jonathan Majors. It's, God forbid we're not going to have the recasting thing again. So here's my point. My point is, for Thunderbolts, the price of admission was knowing these things. But when you get to Thunderbolts, there was a refreshing feeling to it that felt like we were back to kind of an old school, if you can do that, storytelling kind of thing. I mean, it's been almost 20 years since Iron Man, almost 15 since the Avengers. So I think that it was fun. And I'll tell you this, stick around all the way to the end of the credits, because they're back to form with a post-credit sequence that sets up what is coming with very little confusion. Um, go all the way back to Iron Man and that post-credit sequence, with Nick Fury, and he's like, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, and then there was supposed to be the post-credit sequence of the Hulk, but they moved it into the actual movie where he says, we're putting together a team, and Ross says, who's we? And then he just gives him that look like, well, you know who. And then you had at the end of Iron Man 2, you had Thor's hammer. At the end of Thor, you had the whole Stellan Skarsgård, they've still got the Tesseract, and so he's like, well, that's worth looking into. At the end of Captain America, you had the whole really the button of Captain America was the teaser for the Avengers, like if and that was great. That was really cool. The end of Avengers, we're introduced to Thanos, and we're off to the races from there. And I don't want to go through every single one of them, but there was a time when the post-credit sequence of these films would set up what was coming next. And then like Avengers was a little bit of a, the shawarma thing was kind of funny or whatever, but they got to where they leaned more into just being kind of comedic and humorous. And I think people were a little disappointed with some of that stuff, like, oh, why are we just laughing, that sort of thing. So, when you get to Thunderbolts and there are two, I'll go into there are two, and the end credit sequence really does, you realize, oh man, we're headed in a direction, and so I'm not saying they've righted the ship, but I'm saying that this is a great step toward righting the ship of the MCU. I didn't walk out there like fired up, about anything, but I did walk out there thinking, hey, I see you. Good job, MCU. Good job. And I'll talk more about all of this when people have had time to see it, and we can actually chit chat with spoilers and everything. But I did, here's the thing about the Thunderbolts. Well, here's Tinton says this without spoilers: is John Walker treated like an idiot, or at least a C-class hero? He is not treated like an idiot at all, but he is John Walker. He is U.S. agent. He's got a chip on his shoulder, and he's better than everybody else. That kind of thing. So, Thunderbolts is an interesting concept from the 90s. And it is a bright spot in comic book storytelling, especially given the time in which it was released. It was really interesting time to be a comic book reader in those days, because what you had was a situation where Marvel was trying some new stuff in the comics, and I think, depending on who you talk to, it was successful to varying degrees. And in the case of the Thunderbolts, I think it was a real success to a great degree. What had happened I'm trying to figure out where I really want to start with this. What had happened in the Marvel comics at that time is Professor X had decided he was going to pull the evil out of Magneto. He basically was going to go into Magneto's mind and take out the evil that's in him, so he would not be evil anymore. I mean, that's what Charles was always trying to do. That he was always trying to save Eric. He was always trying to save Magneto. And oh, my bad. I want to share this tab instead. So when it comes to that happening, what he pulls out of Magneto is an entity called Onslaught. And Onslaught is this evil being who is super powerful, and he's got all manner of powers to overcome all the mutants and everybody that's there, and he just wreaks havoc across the Marvel universe. Well, this causes everyone to have to make a final stand against Onslaught. And so all the heroes get together to fight Onslaught, and the Hulk smashes Onslaught, and his armor goes flying, but he becomes this being of just pure energy. And the heroes begin to realize, well, if we step into this energy, it will dissipate the energy, and we can do away with Onslaught altogether. The mutants couldn't step into him because it would give the mutants more power, but only the non-mutant heroes could do so. And so the Fantastic Four, all of the Avengers that weren't mutants, and then we cut to a shot of the Hulk, and he's been split into two, but the force of Onslaught busting open split Hulk into two people, Bruce Banner and the Hulk. And Bruce Banner comes to and steps into the energy as well. And eventually there's enough of them that get in there that it destroys Onslaught. So all the heroes are gone, basically, except for the mutants. And Earth is left with no defenders. Earth is left with no heroes because they all gave their lives, apparently, to save the world from Onslaught. And that left a great void. And in that void, who stepped up? But the Thunderbolts. Now, the Thunderbolts were made up of several characters who were relatively new. They first showed up in the pages of the Incredible Hulk. They were going to fight the Hulk and stop him from rampaging or something. But the characters were Mach 1, who is this dude that has basically a jet strapped to him. You know, he's a flyer. Songbird, who can make sound from her throat be solid, almost like Claw in the comics. And so they're doing things. You got Meteorite, who just has a lot of energy, power kind of things, and she can fly and she's strong. You have Atlas, who's a big, strong dude who grows and stuff, almost like a giant man kind of thing. And you have Techno, who is the techno wizard kind of guy. He does all that. He makes machines. You know, he's like Leonardo. Leonardo does machines. So does Techno. And then they're led by Citizen V, and Citizen V is draped in the stars and stripes, kind of as a cape. He's got this mask that is faceless, but it looks really cool, and he's a swordsman. And so you feel like he's classy and he's the right man to lead. Well, the Thunderbolts come onto the scene, and they're doing great things for, they're making some heroic acts and that sort of thing. And it's a really, and it's a great issue. They're honored by the government and all this stuff. And so the final page of this first issue, and this is going to be some spoilers that have nothing to do with the movie. The final page of the first issue of the Thunderbolts, they're standing around talking. And as they're talking about how great it was and all the good stuff they did, Citizen V goes and takes off his mask. And then you see in shadow he's doing something else, and you keep reading what they're saying and everything. I'm going to stop right there and tell you there are a few times in reading comic books where I turned a page and was like, oh my gosh. You just reading along and you turn the page and something just hits you. And this is one of the great moments in Marvel Comics, when you turn the page and there's like a 2-page spread of these heroes standing there, and you see that Citizen V has put on another mask, and it's the mask of Baron Zemo. And and who these people really are his version of the Masters of Evil. And what they're doing is they're trying to gain the trust of the U.S. government to get access to everything they need to be able to take over the world. The Thunderbolts are bad guys parading around as good guys. And so who is who here? Well, Mach 1 is the Beetle. Songbird is Screaming Mimi. Meteorite is Moonstone. Techno is, oh my gosh, he's the Fixer. And Atlas is, I believe he was a version of Goliath, who not a good dude. So yeah, it was nuts. And so the whole time, what's going on in the rest of the Marvel universe is you've got a whole new line of comics called Heroes Reborn, where they've basically started over with the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and the different titles that they all have. This isn't the Ultimate Universe. This is a whole different thing. And this is where, if you've ever seen that weird cover of Captain America where he's standing there with his shield and it looks like he's just got a big bulging chest that's very uncomfortable to see, and a tiny little head. Rob Liefeld is responsible for that and a lot of the art of those days. And and you had all these heroes in this Heroes Reborn thing, going through all these adventures and all that they'd kind of been through before. Like they were adventures that we were used to and stuff. And so when you're reading all that, you realize, well, they're in this whole other universe, or they've just decided to start all over. We don't know what's really going on there. But what we do find out eventually is Franklin Richards made a pocket universe where all of these heroes went, and they end up on an Earth that's directly opposite the sun from the main Earth, and eventually they're going to come back. But it's a year before they do. And so the Thunderbolts have a year to kind of, flesh out their plan and everything. Meanwhile, a young girl gets powers and joins their ranks, and she's super excited to do so. Her name's Jolt. And so she's fired up about what's going on, and but now they're all bad, and they're like, what do we do? But then you have some who really enjoy being good guys. They find that they're finding purpose, and they're enjoying, being the heroes. And you got those who they're going to stay the course, man. They're going to be evil no matter what you say. And it all comes to a head when the Avengers get back, and there's a big battle. And then the comic continues on with the ones that wanted to be heroes. And and in the background, there's always the threat of Baron Zemo coming back and taking revenge and that sort of thing. And it was a really good, fun first year. And then, it kind of Hawkeye took over leadership. See, this was before all the Winter Soldier stuff happened. Eventually, Winter Soldier came into the picture with them, but this was before Winter Soldier was a thing. This is the mid-late 90s, and I don't think Winter Soldier came around until the early 2000s. But so yeah, it was a fun story, but then it kind of fizzled, and it got weird. Like there was one month I was picking up my comics, and the Thunderbolts was a whole different cover, and the way that they were writing it, and the covers were trying to be like more, I don't know, like it just got weird, and we left those original characters, and I don't know, like it's like, what's going on? And then they tried to bring it back to what it was, and it just never really flew well again. And then they kind of became a glorified Suicide Squad with Red Hulk and Punisher and Elektra and the leader of all people. And I feel like there was someone else in there, and it was never going to meet that former glory of people truly trying to redeem themselves, not doing black ops for the government, and not having a little edge to them, but really, really trying to do what's right and good in a world that may or may not trust them, and I thought it was just a great concept and a great idea. And it's one of those things that to this day, reading it still sticks out to me. Like I just remember where the couch I was on reading that, and it just absolutely shocking me, and just loving the concept and loving the idea. And I'd already been introduced to the Thunderbolts because they showed up before their comic started. They showed up in that issue of the Incredible Hulk where they all were. And I had, and what really bums me out is I had that comic. Of course I did. I collected Hulk, but it's gone now, and I don't know whatever happened to it. And now you can't buy it because it's, it's key issue. It's so expensive. But that's fine. I don't need it. I got tons of comics around here anyway. But anyway, look, read comics. They're fun. Read some old comics. It'll be a good time. You'll enjoy it. And it'll give you kind of a new idea of what's going on in the MCU. Have you ever read a comic and had something like that, happen with you? Did you get fired up because of something that took place on the page that just kind of blew your mind? Captured your imagination, that sort of thing. I had other moments like that, I probably talked about before, and we'll probably talk about again, because that's what we do here on the show. We repeat ourselves, and by we I mean me. I repeat myself. So, all right. Well, I don't know that I got anything else to talk about on this episode. I feel like I've rambled on enough. I feel like we talked Andor more than I meant to, and I feel like everyone's probably tired of me by now, and that's fine. That's fine. I want to thank everyone who joined us. Oh, you know what? We're going to open a Star War. This is a Besbin security guard, and his name is Damn Adian. This is now. Last week we opened up old Hector Spinoza, also a Bespin security guard, and this is him, right here. And let's see if we do that thing with the hand where he might focus up, so you can see a little bit of a different skin tone. And this is what Kenner did back in the day too. They released two different Bespin security guards, one white dude, or I guess Hispanic dude, and one black dude. And I never had the black dude. And I was always wanted him because I thought it was really cool to have two versions of something, and my parents wouldn't let me army build, you've already have a stormtrooper, you already have that, that kind of thing. So you already have a Jawa, you already have a sand person, and so we didn't get the army build, but this is one of those that I would have liked to army build with these guys and have 4 or 5 Bespin security guards. Oh, he is open, ladies and gentlemen. He's off the card now. We have opened a Star Wars. I should have done that more to the camera. So let's pull him out of his little plastic coffin here. Just like Hector, Isdam comes with his little gun. I don't pull that out first though. I pull out the figure first. Grab him by the foot. You can hear the plastic crackling as I pull this guy out. For those of you who are listening and not watching, he's got that classic Bespin security guard uniform on, the blue with the gold trim up the middle. Red cuffs around the wrist, and he is articulated at his elbows. He has a little bit of wrist up and down articulation, which is pretty cool on either hand. Blue pants, black boots, and that hat, that little bucket hat that we all know and love, ladies and gentlemen, is Damn Eddie Ann. And then after I've got the figure out, I pull out the gun and I put the gun in his hand. And I don't remember if Hector had the joints on these wrists don't go side to side. They go up and down. See, you can see up, down. And what that means is, I don't know what that means. It means that if he were holding aloft a magic sword like He-Man, that he could actually make that pose. Unfortunately, the He-Man I have doesn't have swivel up and down wrist. He's got swivel side to side wrist. So I'm going to get this gun, put in his hand. He's got a neat mold where he's got like a trigger finger, and you can put it in either hand. I'm going to put it in his right hand. I'll be honest with you. As a kid, all of my figures were pretty much right-handed, I think. I guess because I was right-handed. Still am to this day, right-handed. His little finger bent. This is the problem with some of the molding on these vintage collection figures. Are so small that the plastic gets a little too soft sometimes. So there you go. Pew, 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 pew. So see, with the wrist swivel going up and down, he can do this. Hold on, let me see how that's bent all the way up there. Let me get old Hector Spinoza out here and see. I didn't notice his wrist having this, but they do. They sure do. He can do the same thing. I'll point his wrist down. So see, he can do like that as well as up. The blasters are the same. I believe the whole body mold is, everything, the body mold and everything is the exact same. The faces, of course, are different. And of course, the skin tone is different in these guys. But here's your Bespin security guards. Will you be seeing any more of these guys anytime soon? I hope so. I hope to have an Empire Strikes Back homage made for our series Mediocre Action Figure Photography, which we have several episodes up on the channel. Check those things out. The last one we did was Hulk centric. I found a bunch of pictures on my phone that I might have posted on Instagram maybe, but I think they'll make a good little montage to do a kind of a holdover mediocre action figure photography until I'm able to get the Star Wars Orthodox Star Wars Day Empire Strikes Back homage up and rolling. Look, the email is geekoutonline@gmail.com, geekoutonline@gmail.com. I hope you'll get in touch with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe, share the show. If you're over on Rumble, how about hit us up on Rumble with a follow and a like and all that good stuff, so that we can get our numbers up there. I want to thank everyone who over the past week has liked and subscribed to the channel and has commented on the various shows and everything else. So I really, really appreciate everyone doing that. I'm interested to see, now that I've kind of done a spoiler-free review of Thunderbolts, what everyone else. I think there's going to be a lot of people just like, I don't like this, it's terrible, and because I think that there's an expectation for some people that it has to be bad. You know what I mean? Like they can't like anything Marvel Cinematic Universe anymore. Let us know what you think. You can email the show, geekoutonline@gmail.com, comment below. May the 4th, of course, is Sunday. And for those of you, and there's been a lot of you sending me, here's what pastors do on May the 4th. I won't be doing any of that. I don't recognize May the 4th as Star Wars Day. I celebrate Orthodox Star Wars Day, May 25th. So that's where I stand on that thing. Thanks everyone for joining us. Hey, we do have a Patreon. If you're so inclined and you're able to support us over at Patreon, patreon.com/geekoutloud. Myself and Dave Jones are actually doing a movie, I think, for Star Wars Day, though, May the 4th. So I take it back. I will celebrate non-Orthodox Star Wars Day. I think Dave Jones and I are going to try to watch Solo for Star Wars Day. We'll have more information on that over at patreon.com/geekoutloud. And thank you all who support us there. Your support means the world to us. And hopefully we'll have more media assets and ways to show off our supporters and that sort of thing as time rolls on. I just want to show this again. Thanks, AI, for a great picture of animals going to war for Animal Apocalypse. And thanks, Steve, for this great thing. And thank you all for joining us on Geek Out Loud. And we will see you next time. Have a good one, everybody. I should have started playing that. Before I ever see it.